Hello, everybody. It is nice of you to stop on by. This is Matt, your local friendly gamer, and today I am doing something a little bit different. Something that I kind of wish I did a little bit sooner regarding a couple of other video game adaptation turned into, feature films. But I figured, since I was able to see it last night, that it would be appropriate to talk a little bit about the Super Mario Brothers movie. This was done in collaboration between Nintendo and Illumination. Something that kind of slipped my mind a little bit, because I don't usually follow Illumination all that much. They are owned by Universal, so which, in hindsight kind of makes a bit more sense given the fact that Nintendo is also working with Universal to have a Super Nintendo World section at the Universal Studios theme parks. I think there was one already in Japan, and I think there's one in the works. I'm not sure if it's the one in Hollywood or the one in Orlando. I think it might be Hollywood. It's kind of escaping my mind at the moment. I don't really have the information on hand at the moment, so I'm pretty sure someone could kind of chip in at any point. So, but that's neither here or there. Now, Nintendo has been kind of absent when it comes to supplemental media in terms of video game adaptations, in terms of either movies or TV series. Back when, Nintendo was pretty fresh, pretty new, 80s and 90s, where, where you couldn't really think of video games without thinking of Nintendo. That kind of media was just everywhere. You have, your animated shows like the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. There was also a Legend of Zelda show. There was Captain N, which featured a variety of Nintendo mascots with an original character. And then you also have stuff like the live action Super Mario Brothers movie, which is infamous for the low quality that it was, but it's also in one of those so bad it's good categories. And then after that, Nintendo was a little more on and off, because I think they broke from it a while after, with the exception of Pokemon. Of course, Pokemon is part of the larger Pokemon media conglomerate that is the Pokemon Company, so, that doesn't really count as part of it. But as far as other Nintendo properties, I think, to the most of my best of my memory, at least internationally, because, it could always be, different, based in Japan. I think the last time that we had any sort of video game adaptation was in the form of two series, and they were both on, the Fox Box 4Kids TV, Saturday morning cartoon block. It's the Kirby anime, Kirby Right Back at Ya, and I think there was also an F-Zero anime at around that time too, back when, F-Zero got, anything worthwhile. So, Nintendo has been kind of out of the, additional media scene for quite a bit, barring any sort of additional promotional shorts that could be found on YouTube, the stuff that they had with Star Fox, and, some of the other stuff they had for with Kirby and stuff, unlike Sega with Sonic, and again, just Pokemon in general, Nintendo has kind of backed away from any, adaptation into other medium, particularly, TV shows and movies, until they announced that they were going to do a full-length feature CGI animated film with the animated company Illumination. Now, Illumination is known for primarily Despicable Me, the franchise with all the minions, the screaming tic-tacky little things that that get involved into all these sorts of shenanigans. So when that was announced, a lot of people were kind of concerned. It's like, oh, why didn't they work with Disney? Oh, why didn't they work with DreamWorks? Well, I mean, granted, Disney is probably the easiest one to kind of be like. I mean, even though Nintendo and Disney have done stuff together, and they are both very large companies, that is a lot of legwork and, rights management involved between both of these companies. And I'm pretty sure it'd be a little too much, to navigate. I mean, there's always DreamWorks, but at the end of the day, I think especially since Nintendo was already, working with, the theme park deal with Universal, it's like, hey, we got a 3D animation company, and this is all the stuff they do. Why not work with them? And I think that I think it's probably something that, looked very attractive to Nintendo. So that's ultimately what they ended up deciding. But unlike certain other adaptations in the past, Nintendo was more directly involved this go around. So, Shigeru Miyamoto, as well as a bunch of other, director and producer heads, at their main office in Japan, were coordinating things side by side with those at Illumination, just to make sure that, the property is, given proper due and justice. And that can easily be seen throughout the entire film, setting up in its, unique universe within the, unique continuity within the, the whole Mario universe, as well as all the references to not only Mario, but to other Nintendo titles that can be found throughout the film. Which is easily one of the highlights. And of course, they kind of wanted to take their time and not rush through things. Which is, of course, what, what made Detective Pikachu work. What made the two live-action Sonic movies work. So, I think this was obviously not the time for, Nintendo and Illumination to trip up, following those box office successes. As time went on and we were kind of given like a little bit of reassurances that it was still going on and it was still moving along, we then got our initial cast announcements through one of the Nintendo Directs. And, I mean, in a lot of ways it was funny, but in a lot of ways it was like, kind of like, why? No. It was a case of Hollywood being Hollywood, where instead of getting, people that, primarily know how to voice act, they got actual Hollywood actors. And I mean, the easiest favorite was, Jack Black playing as Bowser, which, of course, again, is another one of the highlights of the film is, Jack Black just, basically stealing every scene he's in playing as Bowser. Pretty similar to when Jim Carrey was stealing every scene as, Dr. Robotnik and Eggman in both the live-action Sonic movies. It's just, those two are, naturals of what they do, and they've made it into their own, into their respective characters very well. The rest, we weren't really necessarily sure about. The biggest concern was Chris Pratt being Mario. You know, I think outside of his role as Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy movies, I think he also had a significant supporting role in the Park and Recreation series. I think he was involved in that, if memory serves me correctly. I also know that he was kind of getting a little bit of heat at the internet for whatever reason. I'm not gonna go too much into that. But at around that time, so I the thing about it is that especially since it wasn't going to be Charles Martinet that was going to be having his voice being Mario, which, given how high he could take that voice, would definitely be pretty hard to do throughout a full 80 to 90 minutes of the film, which is understandable. But it's like, I mean, you would have to wonder if just kind of how they ended up deciding their cast, especially since in a way they already kind of had voices for the main characters. So Charlie Day ended up being as Luigi. I'm not really familiar with the stuff that he was doing. I think I heard he was involved with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm not sure. Same thing goes with Anya Taylor-Joy for Princess Peach. I wasn't really too familiar with anything she did prior to that. I think the two that I recognize outside of Chris Pratt and Jack Black were Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, because I have seen a few episodes with my old college roommate in the Comedy Central series Key and Peele, when he did comedic sketches with Jordan Peele, who I believe is the guy that has been doing, that has been actually writing, kind of horror, kind of suspenseful horror movies as of late, interestingly enough. And Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. And I've seen plenty of stuff that Seth Rogen was involved in, so I was pretty familiar with him too. So all in all, there were some that I was like, okay, I could see this, and others I was like, and there are some that had a more of a harsher reaction to pretty much everyone outside of Jack Black, and it also didn't really help that they also, made sure to mention that, yes, Charles Martinet will actually be, lending his voice to the film in sort of like as a cameo of sorts, but he won't be voicing as Mario, which, didn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's like, well, if you're gonna have him voicing in the movie anyway, then why not just have him voice Mario? But as time passes, they were kind of, giving us, a trailer here and a trailer there, and we started to get to see and hear kind of how everything was turning out. It still was a little weird that they were still kind of calling them directs, but I guess it not just the trailer, they were also kind of giving like additional interviews and behind the scenes stuff, just to kind of hype it up a little bit, and I was really liking what I was seeing. It looked really good. It seemed like they were trying to be as faithful as possible, but still leave room for some, originality. And of course, the thing that I was concerned the most was that, everybody sounded good except for the main character. Yeah, and this is something that I'll probably, reiterate as I go on, but for whatever reason, it seemed like they were only like given like a few rush takes from Chris Pratt in regards to the trailers, and they use those for the trailers, which I mean, it did not really help reassure everybody about his casting in the role. But everyone else was coming along great, with Charlie Day had a few moments to showcase, as well as with Luigi, Taylor-Joy with Peach, Keegan-Michael Key with Toad. They were all coming along nicely, and I was like, okay, I could see this being pretty good. I didn't have to worry about it too much, and it was looking very nice too. So, the whole, negative bias around Illumination was kind of wearing off. It's like, okay, they could do other stuff outside the Minions, which I know they have done some other films and stuff. They just haven't really, appealed to me too much. So yeah. And then, of course, leading up to the eventual release of of the movie, yesterday, the reviewers were getting their time to see it, as well as, probably notable content creators that probably were given an early showing of the film. They were seeing it, and it was basically it was kind of the Sonic movies all over again, where it's like, yeah, your average movie critic is going to hate it, but if you're a fan of Mario, or video games in general, you're in for a good time. And I think that is the best way to summarize the Super Mario Brothers movie. If you kind of put aside what people what people are posting online, and if you're going in just to enjoy a good Mario movie, you're gonna experience enjoyment with a good Mario movie. It's a good movie. I think they did a good job creating kind of their own take of the Super Mario world, so to speak. And it was really kind of like your average Mario game. It's a very simplistic, easy to follow story that could be easily absorbed by general audiences. That's nothing new, okay? And I mean, obviously there's a difference between taking that kind of approach for a video game and that for a movie. But there is some overlap, of course. But I think for what they were trying to do, and for what they were working with, they did a good job. Props off to Illumination. They probably had to be guided a little bit in regards to certain things from Nintendo, but they were given enough, creative for freedom and wriggle room to, do their thing, and they did their thing well. Everyone, performed their respective roles well. I was kind of surprised on how much better Chris Pratt sounded as Mario when I actually watched the film. Yeah, they definitely used better takes from him. I think really the only thing that I think kind of had me a little was that, Mario is a very energetic character. Yes, he's well-rounded. Yes, he's, simple, by the numbers, Mr. Video Game. But he always had a sense of energy. And even though they kind of set this up as kind of like, the origin story, the ordinary Mario before he became Super Mario, I still think they kind of didn't lean into him they didn't give him a chance to kind of get to that, energetic, sense of, woohoo, wah, that sort of thing. But everyone else, Luigi is, the younger brother that, looks up to the big brother, which is, one-to-one, one-to-one what he, has, from its video game counterpart. It's just, there's actually dialogue, a spoken dialogue on top of that to go with it. And I think that was done fantastic, I think, it also gave him moments to kind of, be his own character without just, completely relying on his, brother, even though, he had to rely on him a lot, especially because, as the trailers moved, as we were seeing more trailers, we saw that the primary, adventure is Mario rescuing his brother Luigi, because they ended up getting themselves transported to the Mushroom Kingdom, from their day-to-day lives in New York, into the Mushroom Kingdom. And, Luigi was the one who ended up being captured by Bowser, while Mario is the one who is being guided by, the Toad that was being played by Keegan-Michael Key, into the Mushroom Kingdom, where, lives like a bunch of other Toads that are being, watched over by Princess Peach. Kind of moving down the line, again, like Jack Black as Bowser pretty much, made every scene a joy to watch. They managed to give a nice balance of both threatening and comedic, which again is, it's sorry, my voice is getting dry here. Which actually, works very well, given that, that it can also be kind of how Bowser's depicted in games, just give him a voice, and they also, they also worked out, a lot of the common enemies into his, larger army, so that was fantastic, to see the scenes that he was in. Definitely great. Now, Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach. Well, not so much specifically just her in her role in Peach, but also how they depicted Peach in general. When some of the when they started showing more of Peach in the trailers, a lot of people were kind of concerned that they were gonna try to lean a little too hard into the, the girl boss kind of route when it came to Peach, because the thing with Peach is in the game, she is, when she's not depicted as, but benevolent individual, caring individual, she is often depicted as, someone who's a bit, more than a bit airheaded, who constantly gets kidnapped by Bowser and always needs Mario to go and save her. So to go from, to go from that into kind of, more girl bossy route was quite a jump, but I will say that they in a way, Illumination actually kind of depicted a Peach that a lot of us had been kind of wanting to see in the games, kind of, and let me kind of reiterate on that a little bit. Because the thing is that, especially as, the whole, Peach always getting kidnapped by Bowser, was getting a little old. The thing is that, we weren't exactly asking Peach to be, Samus, we weren't asking her to be, more of a tomboy like Princess Daisy. What we really wanted was just her to be capable. And I think the movie actually did a great job of that I honestly wish I could have seen at any point of the games, is that she was capable. Yeah, they made her into a bit of a fighter, because, she's looking after, all these adorable toads that, they can't really fight, I mean, yeah, the one that travels along with us, he has a bit of a, a bit of a streak about him that, kind of makes him a little bit more of a fighter. And, she does have, she does actually have Castle Guards that actually does stuff to a degree. But, the majority of, her kingdom is just these cute little toads. It is a shame that they just went for toads and didn't even sprinkle a few toadettes here and there. But, it is what it is, it still gets across, that, at the end of the day, she's, trying to look out for, the kingdom and its populace, and I think it actually did a really good job of that, as well as having her kind of, show Mario the ropes, because, it actually kind of, it really gave us a good understanding of, well, how does an ordinary plumber handle the kind of weird stuff that you find in the Mushroom Kingdom? And, this is kind of like a good what if scenario. It's like, because, with the first game, with the NES games and going onward, kind of see Mario, kind of seasoned up a bit. He knows what to do whenever, whenever Bowser's up to his shenanigans again. But, this was a good, zero to hero kind of story, just, with a bit of a Mario flavor. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, obviously comic relief. He did pretty well in the serious moments too, but a lot of his stuff was very comic relief, and he did cause quite a few laughs. That was good to see. And then let's see, I guess there's Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. And there was also a lot of comedy going on from that as well. It is very interesting in the approach that he took as Donkey Kong. I kind of like how it was probably for the best that they didn't rely heavily on Italian accents for Mario and Luigi, with one exception, but it was a brief exception. They also didn't lean too hard in, Seth Rogen played monkey, ooga, 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 I am glad they didn't do that, probably would have been a little funny if they did, if they did that a bit, but it probably would have gotten old, really quick, so I am glad they didn't go that route, it worked out really nice, I think, all in all, everyone, they performed admirably in the role. In the roles that they were given. Now, they actually gave, I think, 2 roles to Charles Martinet. One is like a cameo that you could kind of see from a mile away. And then the other one, it was a bit surprising. I can't really go into details what the other role they gave him is, because that kind of goes into a little bit of spoiler details, outside of the trailers, mind you. So, I can't really go into much, but you know what? Not bad, As much as we would all still love for him to play Mario, I think what they gave him was pretty good, all things Hollywood considered. So, really, with all that said, I'm gonna try to kind of give my general impressions of, of how kind of everything in the story kind of laid out as best I can, without not really going into much of spoiler territory. At least, not too much outside of what has been revealed in the trailers prior to the movie released. So, man, where do I even start? So, basically, I thought that when it came to, kind of the major points in the story, they handled them out really nice. They also didn't stick around any sort of, plot point for too long. They just kind of kept things, moving, just in a way to kind of fit as much in as they possibly could, because, Mario is such a big franchise with, all sorts of references and, all sorts of, material to use. And, seen as that, not only is this the first time that Illumination has done this, they want to get it right not only on the first go, but also, at the same time, you don't want to, you don't want to have the movie just be like, oh, I understood that reference. That was pretty neat, And I mean, there was quite a bit of that, kind of on par with, the Sonic films, where a lot of the referential material did kind of have to carry the movie a bit. And it is geared to a lot of people that, have already followed the franchise to begin with. But, I mean, they managed to make a lot of, kind of original ideas work, they actually start off as, your basic, plumber duo trying to work a startup company in New York. And, by the end of the game, they ended up being the the heroes, through the power of friendship, brotherhood, and power-ups from the question block, they managed to save the day. Which, it was definitely very entertaining. Some of the kind of the transitional scenes from one major point to the next, it kind of fumbled a little bit. Not only that, when they did introduce, expositions for, what is it about, this movie's Mario, this movie's Luigi, or this movie's Peach. Given that they had to briefly introduce stuff to kind of, make their own, piece of the Mario world. But also they can't stay on it too long until they, because they still have to get things moving. There were also times where, for the majority of the film, they had the compositions based off of, actual tracks that were in the Mario games. But every now and then they play a pop song from the 80s, or, basically, licensed music that you would easily recognize the moment you hear it. And while that is nice, I kind of wish they stayed with the actual music from the games, it definitely kind of took it was easy to kind of be taken out of, kind of the world they were building when they put a real world song in there. But, not for nothing, at least the songs they picked weren't bad, Um, and um, I guess the other part is that because they wanted to kind of give Peach her moment in the sun, it didn't really give a whole lot of time for Luigi to kind of shine a little bit because it's Super Mario Brothers. You have Mario and Luigi, so with Luigi being kidnapped, he kind of had his to spend most a good chunk of the film kind of twiddling his thumbs until Mario went and saved him. But they showed a lot of popular level design infrastructure, so to speak, with the Mushroom Kingdom. They showed various characters partaking in power-ups, also taking advantage of other things, like there was a whole section of everyone being on go-karts, a la Mario Kart. It had a lot of good stuff, but I feel like it obviously this wasn't going to be something that is like Disney Pixar, oh my god, but I think for what it is, especially for a Mario movie, it handled itself really well. I would definitely watch it again eventually. But I'm not in a hurry to go and see it again. I felt like it had a thing to do. It did a good job, and all there is to it. And it's already breaking some records at the box office. So I would say this would not only be a good way for Nintendo and Illumination to make a sequel to follow up on the Mario Brothers, but even to go so far as to maybe introduce other Nintendo properties for their own animated films. Obviously the next one will probably be Zelda. Outside of Mario, Zelda is probably the next easy one. And then from there, it's basically a toss-up between Kirby, Metroid, F-Zero, Star Fox, whatever Nintendo franchise they managed to bring attention to. But I think Nintendo and Illumination have a good thing going on, although I guess not everything has to be animated. I could see Metroid pulling off live action. I could see Fire Emblem pulling off live action. I could see F-Zero and Mother pulling off live action. Although I think Mother might be better animated now that I think about it. But obviously, one step at a time here. Again, it's basically kind of a toss-up in terms of critics, but audience, from what I'm seeing, audience loves it. And really, that's all that really needs to happen, because at the end of the day, The Office is the one providing the box office sales. So, definitely a pleasant surprise. This may not necessarily make me a fan to Illumination's other stuff, but if they do more stuff with Nintendo, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think that this is a good way to branch the Nintendo. And a lot of the Nintendo franchises are like 20, 25, 30, 35 years old at this point. I think they can do a lot more outside of their video game medium at this point, because Pokemon has been doing this for the longest time. Sonic's been doing this for the longest time. I think Mario, Zelda, the rest of the Nintendo cast, I think they're ready to get back into movies and TV shows. Who knows? Maybe Netflix will pick. Maybe Netflix or Disney Plus or something can pick something up. Can pick up a Nintendo-made series. That would definitely be something to see. But for now, at the very least, the Super Mario Brothers did a very good job, and I'm glad to have seen it. So yeah, I mean, as much as the other thing that that I wish they could have handled a little bit better is that they did use the DK rap when they introduced Donkey Kong, but for whatever reason, when the credits rolled, the only thing they wrote, the only thing that they brought to mention when they brought up the DK rap, it's from Donkey Kong 64, and it's like, guys, really? You couldn't credit the original composer? It didn't sound like they even used a remix either. I'm pretty sure if the one guy that made their credits, took some time to, actually, look it up, they would have properly gave the credit to Grant Kirkhope. I think he earned, since it was used, I think he has earned a credit for use of that song, even as brief as it was. You took your time to, make sure that Koji Kondo got his proper credit, as you should. But, I really don't like this trend of whether, movies or video games, because a lot of remasters have also been having this problem. They don't properly credit everyone. Guys! Seriously. Yes, I know that, everyone walks out of the credits or skips the credits when given the chance, but it's still important to have them there. But, that's something that I could, rant about, about it another day. So I think yeah. Every time I hear Jack Black as Bowser, I hear Pope from Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, that's because they are both played by the same guy. And yes, I do agree that Anya Taylor-Joy did an awesome job voicing Peach. And I think I kind of liked how, both her and Jack Black, they did a pretty good job of hyping up the film. Using their respective characters, Jack Black showed up in an interview with wearing a Bowser suit, and it was hilarious. And Anya Taylor-Joy had a nice Peach-inspired, kind of wardrobe, for like red carpet stuff. So that was really nice. And I also, when I went to the theater, I actually saw adorable family. There was like the dad had a Luigi hat. Both he and the mom had like Mario themed shirts, and the kids, they were actually costumed up as Mario and Peach, and I'm like, aww. And they were like sitting front and center in the theater. It was really nice. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I love what I saw. And I honestly hope that this could have not only a positive influence on Nintendo being more involved with, movies and TVs themed after their games, but I honestly hope it also has like a positive influence on the games themselves. Maybe this is a good way to show that, hey, maybe a capable Peach isn't such a bad idea, or maybe there's nothing wrong with having a story in a mainline Mario game being fully voice acted, or even like another RPG, akin to Thousand Year Door or Super Mario Paper RPG or the Mario and Luigi titles. Again, fully voice acted. But, only time to tell to see what kind of lessons that Nintendo and Illumination, for that matter, will take from it. But all I can say is, I'm looking pretty forward to what they decide to come up next. So yeah, I've talked about this long enough. Thank you to everyone who have decided to hear this random nerd ramble, ramble about a movie, a video game inspired movie, and hopefully I'll get back to doing another stream sometime in the future. that isn't just me talking talking to a camera. Hopefully there will actually be gameplay involved, or at least another guest to talk with. So with all of that said, that is all for tonight. I hope you have yourselves a wonderful evening, and take care.